FuzzTube, welcome to Snickerdoodle Stitch. My name is Kathleen and this is a channel about cross stitch. So welcome everybody. Today's probably going to be a little shorter than normal. I do have 3 FFOs to show and a couple whips, and then I've got some miscellaneous things to chat about. I didn't really do any shopping. I did a tiny bit. I did some thrift store shopping this last weekend, so I went away with some friends. We run an Airbnb up in the Lancaster, Pennsylvania area, actually east of Lancaster. It is a huge Amish country, and so I hit up the farmer's market and some thrift shops, and my friends and I just hung out at the Airbnb and stitched and ate and talked, and it was a fantastic weekend. So very quiet, much more low-key than the frenzy of retreats. So it was a nice weekend, and that is my last, it's my last trip before Christmas. I do have plans New Year's weekend to go down to DC for a couple days, and I likely will hit up some of the stitching shops down that way. There's a couple near Baltimore and then in Stitches in Alexandria, so that's end of the year. But to leap into what I've been stitching, I've got a couple FFOs to share first. I've got 3. I will start out with one that I finished a while back, but I hadn't decided how I was going to FFO it. And that was the Jardin Prive ABC de la Brodeuse. So it's a very long band sampler done on 28 count banding, which is going to be hard to find. The mill that produced that banding was in Germany, and it flooded, and after 500 years in business, they were closing down. So if you come across any banding with the fancy edges, and I don't mean something just stitched down on it, it's actually part of the weave of the fabric to make like a lacy edge. I recommend snatching it up if you have a project that it would work on, because it's going to be impossible to find if it's not already. But that piece was 44 inches long, and so when I first finished it, it was really hard to show in here with this setup. So I did film a video earlier today showing it. I have it hanging on a door right now. I want to move it somewhere where it will pop a little more against a colored wall, but that door is one that I face when I'm headed toward my family room, which is where my stitchy spot is. And if I'm heading toward the kitchen during my workday, that door is always straight ahead. So I pass that door 25 times a day, head on. So I get to look at it and enjoy that piece. So until I get tired of it there, that's where it's going to be. It actually will come down when I put up holiday decorations in a few weeks. So we'll see after holiday decorations come down if I put it back up there or find a better spot for it. I'm really struggling to think where I can hang something that long that it won't look like I just stuck it on a wall in the middle of nowhere. So I am going to insert a video clip here that shows that, and then I'll be back with you. All right, here is my ABC de la Brodeuse from Jardin Prive, finished on 28 count banding from a company that is closing down, from what I understand. It was made in Germany, and the company flooded, and the 500-year-old looms were damaged and can't be replaced. So I need to look for a different place to hang this. I want to put it on a wall that has some color so that it'll pop a little more, but right now it's on this door, which I face 50 times a day. So I'm gonna zoom in and hopefully not make it too busy or dizzy. So this is hanging from a quilt hanger. It's a little hard to see with the light in here. It's a cat. Well, you can tell it's a cat, but the relief on the face isn't showing up great right now. Really happy with how this came out. I'll scan down. There's some motifs in this that I still just love. This was a lot of fun. I did back it with fabric just so that it would hang without curling or anything funny. And at the very bottom, you may be able to see a little bit. I have some curtain weights in the bottom just to keep it hanging nice and straight. And now I'll move up closer so you can see it up close. But it is a Stitchy themed, and I am just so thrilled with how this turned out. I love all the motifs that are in it. This was a lot of fun to stitch. And I've done another band sampler, but this one I really had fun. I like Jardin Prive's patterns a lot, and they use DMC. Some of the motifs, like the embroidery hoop that's on the right hand side right now, had a lot of back stitching, and some of the motifs in here that look like lace. Like I'm coming up on one here in the bottom right, and that was a ton of back stitching, but they were actually fun to stitch. And then I did modify the bottom a little bit. There were a couple vases that I wasn't crazy about, and I wanted to get the year in there, so I moved some things around a little bit to the left and right of that oval with the rose, but really thrilled with that and love this banding. You can see it's actually like a woven edge. It's not just stitched down on there. So thrilled with that. Wanted to share the whole piece now that you can see, and you can tell from, let me back up, you can see the full door, and that is how long that sucker is. It was over 40 inches, I think 44 maybe. So that is my FFO Jardin Prive. Okay, so hopefully that worked. This is my first time inserting a video in the middle of another video, and I did play around with it and test, and I think I've got how it works, so hopefully I managed to do that. But that was my ABC de la Brodeuse from Jardin Prive. I did swap out a couple of the colors on it. I didn't mention that in the video that I filmed earlier today. The reds that are in there, there's two reds, a darker one and a lighter one, and I swapped those out for two pinks that were in it just because it goes better with my house's color palette. And the pinks I thought looked a little too Dusty Rose 1980s with the Williamsburg blue happening in there. So that's that piece. My next one was for a stitch along, and it is the Bake Me a Quaker stitch along that EJ from Sunshine Stitchers is hosting. And it was to stitch 12 Quakers from Rosewood Manor. And this is the piece as charted. And I'm enjoying, in Sunshine Stitchers Facebook group and on Instagram, people have been posting their finished pieces, and everybody used different colors. So it's been a lot of fun to look and see how everybody mixed it up. And I think that's one of my things that I love about Quakers, is it is so easy to completely change the color palette without any trouble at all, or any real thought other than what colors you like. So I did finish mine. I just started it in July. The stitch along started last December, and the chart was broken into 12 parts, and it ran December through November, with this December being a catch-up month. I started it in July when they convinced me I could catch up, and I didn't think I could, but I did, and I've actually finished it already and FFO'd it. So here is my finished piece. This is on 28 count Zygarde Lagoon Blue or Blue Lagoon. Lagoon Blue. And it is stitched with some random silks. There's some that are Caron. There's some dinky dyes in there. It might be everything, dinky dyes and Caron, I think. These ones that look white, like here, and up in this corner, they are actually and down here, they're actually white and a very pale teal. And on this dark teal fabric, they read sort of white, but you can kind of see it in this one up here maybe. But thrilled with how this came out. It finishes like this edge to this edge of stitching is about 12 inches. So it was the perfect size. Someone else in the stitch along said they were thinking of doing a pillow, and I thought, that would go in my living room really well. So I'm going to post a picture of my Instagram of it sitting on the sofa in my living room, because my living room does have greens in it. And what else about this? I finished it with this fabric. So it's a pale gray and then has these little teal dots. There's another fabric that I like the pattern better for this, but the geometric pattern does tie in with the Quaker, even though the fabric is a little more modern looking than what a Quaker typically would have been. But I did like this fabric. The other one had more tans in it, and this fabric with the gray, I don't know if you can tell, these little 1/1 motifs that are in here, all these little teeny tiny ones are 1/1. Those are all done in a platinum color, so it's gray. So this fabric was the perfect colors. And I've got a zipper on the bottom so that I can pop this out if I ever want to. And I'll hold it up closer. It'll blow it out some, but you'll be able to see the stitching. I absolutely love working with silks. I mean, even on 28 count, the white just gives so much better coverage than I can get with DMC or cotton floss. So I'm a huge fan of stitching silks for especially doing white. I did buy a hank of Silks for You white silk to have just for that purpose, so snowmen or anything like that. There's a Shannon Christine pattern that has like falling snowflakes and a couple deer at the bottom, and I really want to stitch that one, but I was dreading doing the white on a fabric that's about this color. It's a little brighter, but I think with the white Silks for You silk, I'll get the coverage that I want, because I love this coverage. This was, one of these whites is Dinky Dyes and one's Caron. These two are actually not the same floss, although they look the same on here. They were very similar. I had bought a few skeins when I was at the retreat where they talked me into starting this, and the vendor there was Needlework by Jim, and he had a limited amount of floss there with him, and so I'm digging through the floss going, okay, what colors would I want to stitch with? And I had already seen that they had this fabric there, so I had grabbed a skein of this lighter color, I think this blue and this one maybe, but then these Quaker motifs are pretty solid, so they can eat up some floss, and so I pulled some others from stash. So I think there's about 5 different flosses actually in here, but thrilled with that. And so that stitch along is wrapping up. That was the Bake Me a Quaker sow. And the group decided that for next year, and I did say this before, but I'll say it again, we're going to do modern folk embroidery, put a bird on it. This is the pattern, and everybody has been posting pictures of the fabric and floss that they want to use for this one. And again, it is all over the board. There's everything from fall colors to what I would call like rainbow bright primary colors. Some people are trying to match this. I think this was actually Roxy Floss Co Floss, and some people have gotten that. I did hear, I think, that Jacob from Modern Folk Embroidery even mentioned in one of his videos or on his Facebook that EJ was going to be doing the stitch along for Put a Bird on It. So if you're interested in joining in that, it will start in January, and I haven't seen yet how it's going to be divided up. It is actually 6 pages, so it would be easy to just say half a page is each month, and you'd have the 12 months. But this looks like it's more stitching than this one, but I don't think it actually is, because this one had all of these little 1/1 motifs in here. These two, there's one up here, there's one right here. Any of those little tiny doodads, those are all 1/1. This right here and this. So it had a deceptive amount of stitching because there's all the 1/1 pieces in there. But if you're interested in joining this stitch along, visit Sunshine Stitchers either on YouTube or their Facebook page. And I don't know what the hashtag will be for this one yet. Probably Put a Bird on it if that's not already used for anything. But yeah, go check out what everybody's picking out to do this one on and see if you're interested in joining that stitch along. All right, my next FFO, This Fox and Rabbit Witch's Hearth was an exclusive at Stitching in the Wild, one of the retreats I went to, hosted by Jardin Stitchery. I think this probably won't be available. I'm going to guess it will be available next year for Halloween. I did see on their website that they do still have this pattern. So it's under Fox and Rabbit, and then it's alphabetical, so you have to go to the end of the Fox and Rabbit to get to Witch's Hearth. Or when I went to their page, it was right on the home page saying like limited amounts or limited time or while supplies last, something like that. But it is still available there. So I changed up the way I stitched this. I had already decided that I wasn't going to put this, these candlesticks, this altar looking grouping down here, and just go with the Happy Halloween and the witch. And that's what I did. I did also leave a couple bats out. So here's my finished piece, all framed. I didn't have it ready for this Halloween, but I'm ready for next Halloween. And I love the way this turned out. Mine is on 32 count Murtaugh. And thank you, Outlander. I can't think of her full handle. Someone corrected me on my pronunciation and told me that that came from Outlander, which I watched the first season and then didn't watch anymore. And I had wondered where the heck Stephanie gets some of the names for her fabrics, and I always forgot to ask. I knew one fabric that I love of hers is Cersei, and I know that's a character name from Game of Thrones, and I assumed it came from there, but I didn't know where a lot of the other names came from. So thank you for cluing me in on that. But I love this fabric. It's a really nice blend of blues and tans. And I showed in my last video that the other half of it was much more tan. This half had more of the blues in it. But really thrilled with the way it came out. And again, this is on 32. It fit in a standard 11 by 14 frame. This is a frame from Michaels. And for anybody in the market for frames, Black Friday weekend, and maybe even the week leading up to it, you got to keep an eye on the ads, is a great time to buy frames at Michaels, to stock up on them if you have anything you know you're going to need. They are usually buy one, it's at least buy one, get one free. It might even be buy one, get two free. And if you're 55 or older, sign up for their rewards program. And you do have to do a validation. You've got to give them your birth date and your name and address, and they do a validation against public source just to make sure you really are 55. So you do it all on the app or on their website, and then anytime you use your rewards number, you get 10% off your whole purchase. So you don't get percent off, like if something's 40% off, you don't get 10% off that. But with the buy one get one kind of sales, you do get 10% off the one that you have to buy. So if it were buy one, get one, basically you buy one at 90% and then you get one free. So they're 55% off is what they end up being. Just as usual, when you're buying the two, make sure they're close in price or are the same price, because the cheaper one's the one you're going to get free. I sometimes have to do mine in a couple purchases because maybe I've got a couple frames that are going to be, I don't know, $15 each, and then I've got two more that are going to be like $5 each, and I don't want to pay $30 and get the two $5 ones free. I want to get one of the 15 and one of the 5 free. So anyway, reminder, frames, Black Friday. Black Friday is also a fantastic time to pick up any interfacings. Joann's already has 50% off all of their Pellon interfacings, and they're calling it their pre-Black Friday sale. I think when I bought it last Black Friday, it was also 50% off, but I did buy a couple interfacings that I use a lot of. But I'll probably look Black Friday again just to see if the price is, if it's more than 50% off, I may even buy a little bit more. But that's my Fox and Rabbit Witch. So there were a couple more bats up in here, and I had stitched this up here, and then I came down to stitch this because it was easy to count over, and then my intention was to come back up and put the last few bats in, but I really liked it at this point. So I decided just to go with it. So that's her all finished. And now I do have a start. This one is from Serenita di Campagna, and it's Un cuore in fattoria, which means a heart in the country, or yeah, a heart in the country is what Google Translate tells me. And you guys help me pick this one out. I have another pattern from Serenita di Campagna. It's the same colors as the leaves and everything down here, but it's a long, narrow piece, and I think I only had one vote for it, and everybody else voted that I work on this one. So I did go ahead and start this one, and I realized that picture is really tiny. And sorry, this is still in my Q-snap because I want to stitch on it some tonight. I got pretty good progress on it. So next to this barn here, I still got to finish some roof. There's a tree. And then over here, there's a couple more shrubs and a barn. And then the middle part of this heart will be finished. And my goal for this year was, I had really hoped to get all of the middle done. And then next year, I can focus on the branches and the leaves, because I really only have a few more weeks to work on this. And I'll talk in a little bit. My schedule is going to be a little tight for the next few weeks. So, but here it is. This is on 32 count. I'm honestly not sure what fabric this is. For some reason, I didn't pull a tag and I didn't write it down, and I need to look and see if I can tell what I cut it off of. It's a beige. I mean, it kind of looks like weathered stone from Atomic Ranch. It also kind of looks like flannel flower from Fox and Rabbit, because it's cream, but it's got a little, you can see it, it's kind of got some grays, some greenish grays in here. So I'll try and figure out what that was, but I'm loving the colors on here. Her patterns are all DMC, so you get beautiful shading. It is more work than an overdye, right? With an overdye, you'd probably just be stitching this whole tree, and just, you know, the variegations and the floss would do the work for you. This is 3 or 4 different colors of DMC in this little shrub, and each of these bushes was 2 colors. There's actually 3 reds in the barns. So you're having to do the work old school with different colors of DMC. But I am loving this. You know, back here you can really see it's just really rich fall colors, and I think it's gonna pop even more when it gets the leaves that swag under here. So really happy with that piece. And then the last piece that I worked on, and I didn't get very much done on this. I had one night in a hotel room that I worked on this, but it was October House Pumpkin Row. And one of my viewers mentioned that she just did it also. And my friend Lana, who is Silly Notion Stitcher, who is one of the stitchers I was away with this past weekend, she's stitching this one too, but on a larger count fabric. And sorry, this is still in a hoop as well. And I really got a pitiful amount done. This pumpkin is all I got worked on. So this is on 28 count linen 1/1. So mine is going to be pretty tiny. But I wanted it to be little. So it's literally going to be like 1 inch by, I don't know, 5 inches, I think. It's going to be pretty small. Oh, the patterns are actually showing up pretty well. It does use all over dyes, so that's a lot of the variation. Like this pumpkin that I'm working on now, that's only 1 color of floss. It's just heavily variegated. And the other 2 pumpkins were 2 colors each. So any additional shading you see in there is just from the variegation. But I love these little October Fiber House skinny patterns. I still have this in a hoop because I've got to travel for work again to Chicago for a few days, and I want to take this. It's a good travel piece. I have it in my little fox pouch that I made with his little fall colors. I am going to, I've had a couple people ask me to do a tutorial on how to make the vinyl pouches. And so I am going to do that. It's probably not going to be until after the holidays though. So, and I may even film it then, but keep it so that if there's a time where I'm not able to film, I then could push it out for you all. So I don't know, we'll see. But I am planning that. I will get a tutorial done on these. My preference is the vinyl cover because I like to see what's in there. But I know a lot of people, especially I know Shelia said she doesn't like the vinyl covers because in Florida, if you have it in the car or something, it just gets too hot. But yeah, personal preference. And I do mine so that they will hold their shape and stand up straight, which I like because I store them all on a shelf, except for ones that I've pulled out kind of as next up in rotation. So they all stand really neatly on my shelf because I'm a little picky about that. All right, that was all of my stitching. I got a little bit of other stitching related talk. So I mentioned the pony needles a while back, and there are two different kinds of pony needles. A lot of the talk is about the black pony needles. And on these needles, I'll see if you can see it. The needle itself is coated with something black, and then the eye is coated with white. I have pony needles that I love, and the needle itself is still nickel colored, and then the eye is colored either turquoise or pink, depending on whether it was 26 or 28 count. And I don't know, they may have other counts that are in other colors, but 26s and 28s are what I use. I love those. They're very smooth, they're very light. I love the bluntness of the tip. Really, for the kind of stitching we do, unless you're using Ada and you've got like an older pattern that has a lot of quarter stitches or something where you've got to pierce that Ada, the blunter the tip, the better, so that we can find our hole and not split our threads. So I really like the pony needles that I was using that were the nickel ones. I got a package of the black ones to try them, and I have to admit, I'm not a fan. So to me, they create some drag, which I don't really like. I like a needle that's going to feel really smooth pulling through. I did wonder, I was stitching on something this weekend, and I'm a one-handed stitcher, so my seam hand is coming around front to back, and I would poke it up from the bottom, and by the time I got around front, the darn needle would have fallen through. And I did wonder if these would hold their place a little better, but it's the only advantage I can think of for these. So I have a full package of these. They're size 26, and I will give these away to a viewer. It won't be until after Thanksgiving, so I'm swamped until probably right after Thanksgiving weekend. But I'll draw a name on my next video. No, it might be the video after. Let me think about that. I may have to film next video in advance. Let's say the video after that. So it will be December. I can't read the calendar from here. Hold, please. December 13th, that Friday. I will draw a winner for the pony needles. Just put in a comment, just say pony needles. You don't have to say anything else, you can, but if you just say pony needles, the filter that I use to query comments will pick it up, and I'll draw a winner and I'll mail these off to you. So I'm curious to see. I know people love these. They're raving about them. And needles seem to be, you know, you would think a needle's a needle, right? But we all definitely develop preferences. I will say the nickel plated ones, the 28s are kind of short, a little shorter than what I really like to work with. So for anyone who liked the John James Petites that were discontinued, although I heard they're coming back, I don't know if that's true or not. You might want to try out the Pony 28s. They're shorter than the 26s, like considerably shorter. But the Pony Blacks, if somebody wants to try these in size 26, just put in the comments pony needle, and I'll draw for my December 13th video. There we go. All right, let me put this over here so I don't forget that. Some other random talk. With some of my traveling, I've been trying out different lights, and I got this for Christmas last year. And I asked for it because going on the cruise, I knew I was going to be hauling a lot of stuff. I didn't want to haul along my halo light because I felt like I was going to have enough traveling for 2 weeks without dragging that along too. And so I got this, and I love, it's a nice bright light. But I wanted to share a couple downsides. One, I probably shared before, and I knew when I got it that it was a risk. When you have it on, if somebody's sitting across from you, you have to be careful that this is shining on your fabric and that it's not shining right in their eyes. But I can deal with that. But what I have found, the on-off button is right on the side. Whoops, it's on this side. And it's very easy to push. So shoving this in a suitcase or a backpack, it is very, very easy to get this turned on. And then when you pull it out of your suitcase or backpack, it's dead. So I took this on a trip recently. I didn't use it, was fully charged. I didn't use it at all, and it is completely dead. And that's because something bumped it in packing and it just flipped on. So I'm trying to think what I can devise, like maybe sticking in this inside an empty pill bottle or something. Just something that would keep this so that it can't be pushed, because it's literally just, that's it. That would be on off. It won't turn on off. No, though, because it's dead. It is rechargeable. I gotta remember where there's the port there. And it is very bright. I do like it. It's from Glowcuscent. And I have two different travel lights from Glowcuscent, but this one I really liked in use, but in packing it has a downside. So that was some other Stitchy talk. All right, this one's kind of silly, and this is just me. So this hands-on design, Holly St. Nick, I think I picked it up on a freebie table, but I've looked at it before. Okay, so my mind sees that as a mouse. We got a white nose, we got little cheeks or eyes, we got big mouse ears. Are you seeing the mouse? And hopefully I'm not ruining this for you so that you can't unsee that. But then I realized, and this was maybe after a recent video when I referred to this as a mouse, and then I was looking at it, I'm like, I don't think that's a mouse. I think that's just Santa Claus. We got some little peach skin here. We got a red nose, because I'm not sure why Santa would have a red nose, but he does sometimes look like he's been nipping the bottle a bit. I can't really figure out what his face is doing. So if somebody else sees a different thing in this design, will you please let me know? My mind is stuck on the mouse, and that's all I can see now. It's like those things where you're supposed to see the young lady or the old lady, and once you see one of them, you can't find the other one. All I am seeing on this now is a mouse, and I'm 99% sure that that is in fact not a mouse. See these two little dots? That's what I'm seeing as eyes right there. And these I'm seeing as ears. His little nose. That's all I can see. Now I collect mice and I look for mouse patterns, so I'm a little wired to see that. But what the heck is Santa doing if that's Santa? Is he looking up in the air with his beard sticking out? I'm just confused. I still love it. I'm still going to stitch it. But then it got me wondering, do I just leave that peach off and lean into the mouse face? Maybe. Yeah, that's Holly St. Nick from Hands On Design. I love her patterns. That one my mind's just doing something bizarre with. All right, I got a tiny bit of shopping. I picked this up not too long ago at IKEA. It is a candle holder, you know, for a pillar candle to sit in it. And it's about 4 inches wide. And I think it was like $1.50 or $2. But I picked it up. I thought it would be really cute with something spring or Easter, something small finished in here. Either to hang or as a pin cushion. But with this as the frame. So I thought I would share that. I'm always digging around in IKEA looking for stuff for finishing because they'll have things very inexpensive and fun. Now I have a little bit from my thrifting. Actually, before I get to thrifting, I did make it up to Strawberry Sampler a couple weekends ago. I met a friend near there for lunch, and so I had to use the excuse to go to Strawberry Sampler. That is one of the closest needlework cross-stitch shops to me. And when I first walked in, she had all these boxes sitting on the counter and they were full of frames, and she said that someone who used to work at the store was decluttering and downsizing, and she brought all these boxes of frames for her to sell there. And so now I'm apparently the one building up a frame hoard. But I did pick up, it's just a couple of them. I got like 6 frames. But I looked for things that were unusual shapes. And so I picked up a couple fun skinny frames. And I'm actually wondering, you know, I have it right here. I didn't have it here before. If my skinny pumpkins might, if I can, all right, let me line it up and then hold it up. My skinny pumpkins might fit in this frame. Because the pumpkins are still going to get stems, and then there's some dashed lines at the bottom and the word pumpkins. The frame doesn't say what size it was. It was originally $12, and I paid $2. So she had a ton of different size frames. They all look like frames that she sold at Strawberry Sampler at one time. Back in the day when that was a huge shop in Old Ridge Village, they had a huge framing department and they had a lot of pre-made frames, either specific sizes to fit patterns that they had or just in these kind of unique sizes that people would use. So then I did some thrifting and I picked up another long skinny frame. It's actually a pretty picture, but that's not why I bought it. The frame was $3. And this is a unique, it's longer and skinnier than any standard frame sizes. So I just picked that up for my stash. And then, let's see, this is not a frame. I got in my head, so I will be finishing Mirabilia or Nora Corbett, one of the two, Christmas Elf Fairy this year. I'm hoping to finish it in like the first week or 2 of December. And I got in my head that she would look really pretty in an oval frame. And so I was on a mission in thrift shops looking at the walls. I don't usually look at the pictures and things hanging because I make enough things to hang on the wall without buying framed prints or something like that. But I was looking for oval frames and I actually found a bunch of them and a couple round ones. So at the one thrift store, I picked up this oval frame. It looks like it was originally sold in AC Moore, and it's a 5x7. But I only paid $1 for that one. It is a solid wood frame. Here, the date on it is July 14th, 1997. So somebody's had that around for a long time. And then All right, so for Christmas Elf Fairy, I have a feeling one of these frames is going to be too small and one of these is going to be too big, and I won't end up having any frame for her. But this was one that I picked up, and this is actually a needle pointed piece, and it was professionally framed, but I'm kind of laughing because the needle point piece is so thick that it sticks up on the back of the frame. The dust cover has torn around it over time. Really nice, super heavy frame. I'm probably gonna be, I don't want this purple needlepoint piece, but it was framed by John Wanamaker's in Philadelphia, and I love that. Wanamaker's was an old department store, and Macy's is in the store now. It's still a beautiful building. I'll be visiting it before Christmas when they have all their holiday stuff done there. But yeah, I'll hate to throw this away. I may have to keep the piece of dust cover somehow with my piece. But I have a feeling this is going to be too small. I've got a Goldilocks thing going. And then I bought this oval piece, but I have a feeling this frame is going to be too big. This frame is actually the tone of wood and everything. Like I was thinking a dark green frame, or dark brown frame. She's stitched on a green fabric that's lighter than this, and it would have to hang this way for her, but I have a feeling this is going to be too big. I think there's going to be too much space above and below her in here. So that's on my schedule the next couple weeks. I do want to stitch her, but I'm going to get her out and see, are either of those going to work? I did find another thrift store frame, which I don't have in here, that is in between those two sizes, but it is a plastic frame and it's a god-awful gold color. So I will have to paint it, and I really wanted to put her in a nicer frame than a plastic frame that I had spray painted. But we'll see. I may still end up with that. And then I did buy a round one. So I was looking at an antique store, had a couple of these. They're plate holders, so you would put the plate in there, and then these things flip to hold the plate in place. And I wouldn't need these on there, although I'd probably just leave them on and move them out of the way. So they're designed, they've even got a hanger already on them. They're designed so you could hang a plate on the wall, but they're beautiful wooden, solid wood, round frames. And I got two of these for $3 each. And if anybody's tried pricing oval or round frames, they cost an arm and a leg. You can find them on Etsy. And you can find plastic ones other places, but wood ones, they're pricey. They're like $50 and up, depending on the size. So I saw these at an antique store, but they were $10 each, and they still had plates in them. And I hemmed and hawed, and they weren't wood. And I was like, you know what, for $10, it's not really what I want. I'm looking for oval, and I do finishing on round things like this, but you can buy large plate chargers, which are very similar to this. And I finished things and shown them on here on metal pieces like that, and that's a lot less expensive. So I decided not to buy the plates with the plastic round. They looked like wood, but they were plastic. And so then when I was at one of the thrift stores, I looked up, and there are two of these round solid wood, and I look at the price and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to have those. So I bought two of these. I don't know what's going to go in these. I don't think Christmas Elf Fairy's going to fit in here. She might, and this wood, it's a little browner, less like rich mahogany than what I was thinking, but it would work. So that's a possibility. And then the last thing for my thrifting has nothing to do with cross stitch, but this is all yo-yos sewn together. And I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with it. I thought about using it on a project bag, like taking apart some of the places where it's sewn together so that just like this would be on the front of a project bag, maybe folded over the back of it. Not a vinyl cover project bag, just a zipper project bag. I did notice though, after I got it home, that this side actually has the yo-yos folded over on each other. And I think someone may have done this to use as a valance, like over a kitchen window or something. Because the way it's folded over, you could absolutely slide through a, you know, just a thin curtain rod. So I have a feeling that's what someone did with this, was they stitched this all together to use as a valance. Some of these fabrics are really old, like they may actually be feedstocks, and others I'm not so sure about. So I have no idea when this was made, but it's a ton of yo-yos all stitched together there. So I will be doing something with this, but that was my last thrift store find. So I think that's actually everything I have for today. In fact, I know it is. I don't just think. I have a couple crazy weeks coming up. So I've got a trip to Chicago for work. A little bummed because it was a trip where I finally could tack on a little bit of time and go to Black Hat Stitchery, and Black Hat Stitchery closed. They've been bought by some new owners. The previous owners retired and they're going to be moving. So I won't be visiting there, but I'm going to be out that way for work. So that's going to take up some stitching time. And then I need to get ready for Thanksgiving. It looks like I may be hosting Thanksgiving here for my dad and his girlfriend, or I'm going to have to go cook at his house, one or the other. And I probably will go ahead and decorate for Christmas. Thanksgiving's as late as it can be since it's the 28th. And I really want to be decorated so I can enjoy my Christmas decorations longer than 3 weeks. And that's kind of all that's going to be after Thanksgiving before Christmas. So a lot going on over the next couple of weeks. So I think my next video would be Black Friday. And I know a lot of you have everything going on that weekend as well. Although some people, including me, might just, I'll be in a frantic frenzy in the day and then exhausted, so I'll just sit and watch some floss tube. I do need to get out my Christmas and winter projects that are my whips and my patterns and kind of figure out what I'm going to do for Christmas and winter. So I think my next video, I likely will show the end of my fall stitching and then do a whip and stash walkthrough, just Christmas and winter whips, so that I can get organized what I'm going to be stitching in December, because December 1st is Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. It's coming along fast, people. It's such a short window for Christmas stitching. I will stitch Christmas into January, but I've got a lot of just winter pieces too, and I kind of want to transition into them. So that's my plans for next thing. So just a reminder, pony needle, if you're interested in a drawing to try these out, because I'm not crazy about them, but you might love them. And sorry, I'm just looking around here to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I think that is everything. So everybody have a fantastic week, and I will talk to you all in 2 weeks. Bye.